Hi, and welcome back to another session of character modeling with me, Steve Moore, aka S'more. And this week, I wanted to revisit the pleated mini skirt. So back in the day, I made a video on the pleated mini skirt, and that was cool, all good. But since then, Marvel's designers upgraded some of their tools, added some new features, and I also just wanted to raise the bar. So what we're going to try and do today is basically this. It's got like a nice high waist and a nice taper into the hips, using darts, and you can see how the darts also kind of flow into the pleats. And so I wanted to kind of riff on that. And so this is basically what we're going to make. So I'm calling this an A-line, high waist A-line pleated mini skirt. I'm not sure if there's a proper name for it, but here you go. So that's what we're going to do in this little video, and I will post the pattern, the Marvelous Designer scene, up on Gumroad too. So if you want to experiment with the scene, try things out yourself, kind of review the actual assets. They will be up on Gumroad. Look for that in the description below. The link will be there, if not immediately, shortly after I post this video. And I've also thrown the avatar, the ZBrush file. So this is the high res model. It's stylized, got subdivision surfaces built to animate, got some good loops for facial animation, and the shoulders are nice, and the pelvis is built to animate nicely, knees and stuff. The elbows do need some love there. They could do with a few more loops, but you know, for a starter asset, if you wanted to kind of do a stylized character, I thought it should be a good place to start. Make it your own. Also included in here, I've got I think a pretty good mouth model here, some teeth, and they're nice subdivisions there as well. So the base level would work as in-game teeth. So there you go. So I'm going to put that up on Gumroad. Okay, so before we make our actual pleats, I think it's worth just taking a quick look at a simple example, so to help us kind of wrap our heads around how a pleat works. Now, so for this, what I've got here is imagine this is going to be our waistband, or represent our waistband. It's going to represent, in this case, just one pleat. So the 20 centimeters is the width of one single pleat. And down here we have our pleat material. Down here we have our pleat material, and it currently is also 20 centimeters. Now, to make a pleat, the material needs to fold over on itself, and it needs to do this 3 times. So that means that, in fact, this needs to be 3 times the width. So instead of 20, we're going to make it 60, and top and bottom. 3 times 20 is 60. Okay, so far so good. So that is the width of our pleat material. And now what we need to do is just tell the material how to fold, right? So at the moment it can't fold. It needs some internal lines. So in Marvelous Designer, you create some internal lines, and then you can use those to tell the material how to fold, which direction. Now here's a level up from the last video. We've got a quick way of doing this. So I'm going to click on the end segments of our pleat material. Select those, right click, and we're going to choose offset as internal line along curved. Now, here we've got the number of pleats, so number of offsets, my bad, sorry about that. So if we want 3 segments, we need 2 internal lines, right? So 2 internal lines creates 3 segments. And you'll notice the offset is nicely 20 centimeters. Click OK. So far, so good. We also need some points along the outline of the pattern that correspond to our internal fold lines. And there's a neat trick to do that too. So this is fun. Check this out. So you're going to select your points here, and then you're going to right click, trim, extend trim, add point to pattern outline. Now, watch this. If I grab that internal line and pull it away, you will see that we now have 2 points corresponding exactly with our internal line. Pretty neat, right? Okay, so we're almost there. So right now, I'll bring the property editor over here, and we're going to just click on one of these internal lines and look at the fold angle. You'll notice that by default, it's 180 degrees. So what that means, if you remember your protractors, right? This is an old school tool for kind of measuring angles. Imagine the center point here is that's our internal line. That represents our internal line, right? Now, 0 to 180 is basically flat, right? So that's like you've opened up the piece of material and it's lying flat. 0 to 180 means flat. What we want to do is tell the material to fold kind of all the way over on itself in both directions. So the first line is going to be 0. So that means basically that if, again, this is the fold line and this point of the material is kind of all the way over at 0. So both ends are at 0. That's one direction. To go the other way, all the way the other way, you would want 360, right? So 0 all the way around is 360 degrees. So that's the idea behind the fold lines, right? So now to set those, Marvelous Designer has a tool called Pleats Fold, right? So up in the 2D pattern window here, you see that little kind of sewing machine with the folded material. You grab the Pleats Fold tool, click before the first internal line and after the last, double click, and you get this dialog box here. So we'll just go with knife pleats for this demo. And I think if you had more than a single pleat, you would get the option to specify how many internal lines per pleat, but that's grayed out for now. And you can see here the fold angle 0 to 360, right? You can switch it around, but 0 to 360 will work for us. We're going to click OK. And now, taking a look again at our internal lines, the first one is now set to 0, and the second is set to 360. So far, so good. Okay, so now all that's left to do is to sew the pleat together. And for this, Marvelous Designer also has a tool. It's called the Pleats Sewing Tool. It's found next to the Pleats Fold tool. We're going to select that tool. All right, so now it's active. You can see kind of the icon has changed there. It even gives you instructions on how to do this. So you're going to click on the first point and drag out to the second point of our waistband here. Now we're going to go down to the pleats material, click on the first point and drag out to the end point of our pleat material, and that's it. And this is the result. So what you can see here, this is where it's nice to have kind of just a simple example. The material, the pleats material sewn, the first segment is sewn to the waistband, and then at the same time, the segments are sewn to each other, right? So it's now got, so what's going to happen is it's going to kind of sew one side of the pleat material to the other, and then sew the results to the waistband, at least is my best description. Okay, so let's hit the sim button and see what happens. Wow, so that was quick and almost too quick, but look at that's pretty nice and clean, right? That's a nice example. You can see how the material is folding over on itself. I'm going to dial down the particle distance to give us a little bit more resolution, and hit the sim button again just to kind of so you can see it a little better. So Yeah, there you go. It's nice, it's almost sticky. So to begin, we'll need a waistband. So I've already measured the hips here, and they're about 74 millimeters, 74 centimeters, sorry. So let's take a look at the waist. So this is gonna be a high waistband, so we're going to use the basic circumference tool to check that, and it puts it at about 41 centimeters and change. I'm going to round that up to 42. You can see the hips here. If we choose the edit tool, you can see that her, like at the, we're gonna kind of, this is where I imagine the pleats gonna start happening. So that's gonna be about 74. We'll round it up to 74, and let's start making this dress. So first we'll need our 2D pattern window, under Window, 2D pattern window, and we're gonna use the rectangle tool to draw out our waistband approximately. I'm also going to make a new material here. Let's add a material, call this dress. I'm going to grab our pattern and assign our material to. Okay, so now we know that we want this to be about 42 centimeters. I'm just rounding it up. So her actual waist we measured at 41, and set top and bottom, and using the both for the directions, so it's scaled evenly, uniformly. There we go. Thing looks good. So turn on the arrangement points for our avatar. So shift click just to kind of wrap it around loosely there, and then we'll go up to the segment sewing tool. We're just going to sew the back of it here. So what I'm going to do is just, oopsie, come on, move this a little closer. Let's see, get it as close as I can, even stuck into it a little bit there. There we go. Okay, cool. There we go. So there's our waistband. Nice high kind of stylized waist there. Now so this is where the fun begins. So this, if we go to the measuring tool here, edit. So this measurement here, this is kind of, I'm calling the kind of the hips, right? Yeah, so her hips are about 74, and we're going to make a piece of material that's going to kind of be wide enough to fit around the hips, and then taper smoothly into this narrow waistband. So first of all, we're going to go up and make a rectangle, and we're going to set the width for the hips initially. So we're going to say it's 74 centimeters, both directions. Change length 74, both okay. Okay, so I'm going to make the height just a little shorter here. I already kind of have an idea of what these measurements need to be, but you're basically going to eyeball it. You're going to kind of, I want it to be kind of in line with the waist and the hips there. So that's about right there. All right, so we've got our dart piece. So I'm referring to it as a dart piece because the way we're going to handle the kind of the taper from the hips to the waist is to add the series of darts here. So that's going to pull the material into the waistband nice and smoothly, but I'm going to wait on adding those darts for now, because in order to make it as simple as possible for the to simulate the pleats, we're going to just kind of leave it as a nice kind of rectangle clean for now. And we're going to go ahead and make the pleat section. So we're going to go up to create rectangle, I'm going to draw out an initial box, and since this piece is 74 centimeters wide, and we know for a pleat we need to triple that, because the pleat's going to fold in on itself um, 3 times. So therefore, I'm going to change the length of this. I happen to know that 3 times 74 is 222 centimeters. Using both for the direction option to scale it symmetrically. Change the length on the bottom, so repeat here, 222, and there we go. Now, uh, let's see here. So the first thing is I'm gonna split this line here uniformly. Now you don't necessarily need to do this, but I've just found I've been mucking around with this and troubleshooting, and so for superstition's sake, I'm going to kind of add these segments here. Now we need to add internal lines for the pleat folds, and there's an easy way to do that. So we're going to click on both the end segments of this little box here and right click. So we're going to select the end segments, right click, and choose offset as internal line along curved. That gives you this dialog box. Okay, so far so good. Now, so we want kind of basically 19 pleat segments, and we need to multiply that by 3 to get the number of internal lines. That would give us 57. However, 56 is the real number because that will give us 57 segments. So 57 internal lines will generate 57 pleat segments. Okay, so and note the offset number here that's generated. So just keep that in the back of your mind there, 3.89, and click OK. So there we go. So now what happens is we've got our internal lines. That's good. But we also need some points to correspond to those internal lines. So there's also an easy way to do that. So we're going to grab all these points along here, right click, extend, trim, add point to pattern outline. Boom. It looks like nothing's happened, but if you pull the segment away now, you've got a corresponding point, right? For every line segment, every internal line is a corresponding point on the external shape. So we'll do the same for the bottom, just because I'd like to be symmetrical. So we're going to, sorry, one more time here. Extend, trim, add point to pattern outline. And now we've got points top and bottom. Perfect. You need those in order to do the pleat sewing. That's has to be anyway. So, but before we sew it, we need to fold. So all these are flat right now. They're 180. So what we want to do is set the fold angle on all these internal lines. And there is also an easy way to do that. So what we're going to do is go up to this pleats fold tool. You're going to click not outside, but just inside the end of our pleat material, both ends, left and right. Double click, and now you're going to get this pleats fold tool, which is going to set the fold angles for all our little internal lines. I want to use the accordion pleats, and there's a reason for this. We'll come back to this at the end, right? But go with the accordion pleats. Number of internal lines per pleat is 2, right? Because it's just a simple accordion. And then you click, you've got your fold angle 0 to 360, OK. So now if we go through here and we select these internal lines, now you can see the first one is set to 0, the next one is 360, 0, 360. So far, so good. All right, cool. And I'm going to, before we go any further, let's freeze our dart piece here because, or soon to be dart piece, so that when we sim it won't fall to the ground. What we want to do is sim the pleats to this piece before we wrap it around our character. Now we're going to go up to the pleats sewing tool and click on the first point and then drag out to the end here. Right, so we drag across, click at the end, and now we go down to our pleat material and then just evenly, smoothly drag across. I'm doing this slowly because I'll tell you, you get a lot of errors with this thing, so I'm being super careful just to kind of to be safe here. Okay, so far so good. I'm going to hit the sim tool and voila. And you'll notice what you get is not actually knife accordion pleats, you get box pleats. And this is the weird thing. I don't know. I've been messing with this and box pleats was my goal. Um, so you can see they're basically box pleats. Uh, I feel like the tool is kind of a little bit broken, so my solution for it is to use the accordion pleats because I have not been able to get knife or box pleats to work. The knife and box pleat option gives you kind of like a mismatch of pleats, and so the accordion option works at the moment. So I know that's a bit odd, but there you go. So use the, you know, if you want box pleats, use the accordion option. It's at least that seems to be, could be user error, but it seems to me that it's probably a little broken right now. And so that's that's my solution. That gives you some nice looking box pleats, and we could go through later and we can delete the, you've got this fold line here. We can just delete it, and that will give you a smooth box pleat. Okay, so the hard part is done. We've got our pleats, so it's downhill from here. This is going to be fun. So darts. Um, so we kind of broke this line up into 19 segments, and the idea is to have the darts flow into the pleats. So I'm going to take this top line segment here, subdivide or split, uniform 19. Cool. And now we're going to add darts. So I've experimented with this a little bit. So you're going to add the darts one at a time. It doesn't seem that you can add them as a group. So you're going to go add dart, turn off shape dart cap, click OK, and then rinse and repeat. Okay, and as you add the dart, you'll notice that it also automatically adds the sewing. So that's nice. Cool. So now we want the dart piece to stitch into our waistband, of course, our high waistband here. So we will also split this uniform by 19 segments. Okay, almost there. I'm going to make this window a little bit bigger. This could get fiddly. Up to the segment sewing tool. And all that's left to do is just to stitch these guys in. Oh, and one more thing before we stitch it in. So we want these pieces to align with these pieces. So if you check the width of an individual segment on the waistband, it's 2.21 centimeters. We need to adjust these. So they're a little bit out, 1.89, and this one is a bit wider at the end points. So starting with the end points, you go down to change length and make that 2.21. Do the same on the other end. This time switching the direction to end, so it pulls it to the outside, 2.21. And then, similar to the dart, you'll just have to go through and make sure all these using the both option for uniform scale are set to 2.21. So we want all these guys to be the same with 2.21. Okay, there we go. Didn't take too long. So now up to the segment sewing tool. And this is just a matter of making sure that you don't get your wires crossed. So keep these start and end points aligned. Just go through each one. Boom. Okay. So far, so good. Okay, so now we're going to right click on our dart pattern and choose activate. And so got everything stitched in there. It should be a matter of hitting the sim button and voila. Give it a bit of time to kind of settle there. So now that's kind of settled into place where we'll use the segment sewing tool and stitch up the back. Sim that. Struggling there a bit, but that's okay. So I'll pause the sim and let's grab this pattern again here. And I'm going to take the particle distance down to 5, just to also on the, yeah, there we go. That's better. It's a bit lumpy, so what I'm going to do is tighten up the dart segment by adjusting the shrinkage for the weft and warp. I'm going to take it from 100 down to 95, and this is going to have the effect of tightening it up a bit. Okay, so finally, let's just stitch the back of the pleat section in. We're about done. There you go. So one other thing I'd like to do is extend the length of these darts so they're kind of more, closer to kind of our goal, which is to have them feel as if they're flowing into our pleats. And let's take a look at that. Ah, yeah, that's much better, right? So nice and clean. Cool, much better. So to wrap up, let's take this piece of material here and also take the particle distance down on the waistband. Activate. Done. I quite like that. That's quite nice. So the one thing that's bugging me is you can see we have these creases in the middle of our box pleat that we really don't want. You want that actually to be kind of smooth. So so we can actually just delete those center edges. I'll turn off the sim here and grab the edit pattern tool. And this is a little bit funky, so you want to get your all right, trying to adjust the window space here. So we want to grab that center point there, center line, and to locate it in the 2D pattern window, which is where you really need to select it. You can't really select it here, right? But you can see it does show you kind of the little blue dot shows you where you clicked. So this is the hacky part. So now I can select that edge. I know which one it is. And then kind of now you want to kind of, I happen to know it's about 6 segments across will be the second edge. So you just basically kind of test it out. You go, oh, is it that one? No. Is it that one? Yes. Okay. So now you know the spacing. So it's every 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can now go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and get the next one. Okay, so for all those redundant edges selected, just hit delete. Thinks about it for a second. Resim. And now you've got your kind of clean box folds. So a bit weird. We used the accordion uh, fold pleat, fold tool, you know, but we've basically made box pleats. Yeah, well, that's it for this session. I hope you enjoyed the video and got something out of it. If you didn't, I am terribly sorry. I wasted your time. You're never going to get it back. It's gone. That's 10 minutes of your life that's just been wasted. Terribly sorry about that. But until next time, happy modeling. Ciao.